practice resolve. Resolve allows you to go the distance. Resolve is a long-term, sustainable, longevity-based plan of action. When you have resolve, you are making a commitment to yourself to develop the habits, the consistency, the preparation, the accountability, the discipline to create and maintain a lifestyle and habits that last.
You have this guide on your platform. It's called the No BS Guide to Maximizing Midlife and Getting Back to What Matters Most. Just talk about a few of the things that you mentioned in that guide so that you can give a little context so that people who are listening to this can understand of what you basically represent now in this midlife male platform. So you talk about getting a late start is better than not starting at all. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I'm glad you read the guide. Thank you. Okay. Where I'm at in life is that I'm enjoying this conversation that I'm having with you. And what I mean by getting a late start is better than not starting at all is we get hung up. We get hung up on the how. People talk about the why all the time. Find your why. I think especially most of us in middle age, we know our why. We know why we want to be better husbands or better fathers and better providers. And we want to be happier and we want to be fitter, go from fat to fit or drink a little less or do this. What we struggle with the how. And we struggle with this belief that we're too old or it's too late or I've been doing these things too long and it's not how everybody else does it. And they're on this path. It's hard to set habits and it's hard to break habits. What I mean by it is in fact never too late to start making changes. Don't get fixated on the why. Don't worry even about the how. Just start today, right here, right now, making one better decision, one better choice, because we have so much runway ahead of us. If we start making better decisions, living the life that we want, and I don't mean go out and quit your job and follow your passion, which could be galactically irresponsible for most people out there. If you have the means and you're able to do that responsibly, sure, more power to you. Do whatever you want. But what I mean is that it's never too late to start making better choices. You can swap alcohol for water or some other non-alcoholic cocktail of your choice, or even cut back. You want to get fit? You can start going for a walk. You can take the stairs instead of the elevator. You want to pursue a hobby? Great. Why do we think we have to give up our hobbies when we get older? Play in the band, pick up the guitar again, start painting again, 40, 50, 60, 70, and beyond. What we have the capability and the capacity to do at those ages and stages is phenomenal. We need to stop seeing midlife as a crisis and start seeing it as an opportunity to live our best lives and that our best days are ahead of us still. So don't get hung up on the being too old. Don't get hung up on it being too late. Don't get hung up on the I don't know how in there. Get hung up on I know why, but I can't. And coming up with the reasons of why and the justification and the validation that you seek for all the reasons why things can't happen, and just start doing. Progress and the purpose and the payoff ultimately is in the doing. Just start doing. Trust me on this one. You will like the way you feel.
Talk about the difference in resolution and resolve.
We know what happens, right? Come New Year's. That's why resolutions. People make resolutions. And what do? I was in the gym business for a while too. Everybody races to the gym. Everybody makes their resolutions. And they usually start thinking about their resolutions when they get back from their holiday vacation or all of their overindulgences and everything else. And they make these big, grandiose resolutions of how they're going to change and how they're going to transform and what they're going to do differently this year. They make their plans, join the gym, or I'm going to do this, and I'm going to take a vacation. And you know what happens the vast majority of the time? You come out of the gate hot. We're going to go from 0 to 100. By the way, we've never taken the car this fast before. Okay. But we're just going to level down on that gas pedal. And we're going to try to go from 0 to 100 because it's January 1st. And I made these resolutions and damn it, I'm going to go do it, man. So I'm going to go 0 to 100. I haven't been to the gym in 5 years. Now I'm going to go every day for the next 30 days. I've had 6 Diet Cokes a day, every day for the last 5 years. All of a sudden, now I'm not going to have a Diet Coke. Not at all. Not one. Go 0 to 100. The alcohol is going to go down. The cigarette's going to go down. I'm going to throw away all of these clothes because I'm not going to wear them anymore. I'm not going to fit into them because the new me is going to be here because of all my resolutions. And it's false optimism, quite frankly. It's short-sighted. It's 7-minute abs or a crash diet or anything else. It's not sustainable. It's not longevity-based. It's not strategic or tactical. It's, in a way, it's an unattainable goal. It's setting yourself up for failure. What I mean by resolve over resolution is don't make resolutions, just resolve. Resolve allows you to go the distance. Resolve is a long-term, sustainable, longevity-based plan of action. When you have resolve, you are making a commitment to yourself to develop the habits, the consistency, the preparation, the accountability, the discipline to create and maintain a lifestyle and habits that last. And these things need to become ingrained. They need to become part of your DNA. They need to become part of who you are. So if you don't want to do them, you're not going to do them. If you don't enjoy doing them, you're not going to do them. If you don't see the opportunity, the purpose, process, and payoff to it, it's not going to stick around. Now, you may drop the 5 or 10 pounds in the 30 days. You may be able to go 2 weeks without the Diet Coke. You may buy a different size pair of pants for a little while, but we've all seen this movie where it comes back. So what I mean by practicing resolve is approach your plan, approach your life with intention. Play the long game. It's not working out every day for 30 days for 2 hours a day. It might be exercising 3 days a week for 1 hour at a time with the right trainer in the right facility with the right plan. It's likely not going from all the Diet Cokes to no Diet Cokes, but to scale back and to say, look, I'm going to go from 6 to 4, then from 4 to 2, then maybe from 2 to 1. It's moderate. We think that consistency is this straight line right to the top. It just goes up in that direction. That's not what consistency looks like. What consistency really looks like is an arrow that is heading in an upward direction, but it has all these little blips in it too along the way. It's a day that you did miss your workout, but you got right back on track. It's a scheduled active recovery day. It's enjoying the burger during the game with your buddies at the bar, but just not doing it 5 days a week anymore. It's swapping out the Diet Coke for the healthier beverage. Not 100% of the time, but maybe we're working ourselves towards 70, 80, 90% of the time there. So that's what I mean by resolve over resolution and setting yourself up for success. No shortcuts, no excuses.
So when I went to college, I studied advertising. No one I knew ended up doing what they studied in college. Who ended up as Harvey Weinstein's executive assistant? You ended up producing a couple of movies. How did you get from Michigan to Hollywood?
Yeah, another great question. So without having a family business to go into, without having, again, any guidance or any boundaries or any structure, I'm thinking about what is it that I think I want to do. Didn't want to be in a suit and tie. Didn't seem to like that. Saw that. Didn't seem to end up very well overall. What also seemed like fun and entertaining and the rock star party movies lifestyle. The entertainment industry by nature seemed entertaining just by the nature of connecting those dots. So what if I did that? What if I went into the entertainment business? Not fully even understanding exactly what that meant. So, no, let me do that. I think I want to be a film producer. That sounds better than sitting at a desk or going on to Wall Street or going back to even my hometown. Certainly not going to be a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant or, ironically, even an insurance broker, which I ended up being, like, to circle back. All the things I saw in my neighborhood, didn't want to be those. So let me go be a film producer. I can do that. And it never occurred to me that I couldn't be that. No idea how, but it didn't occur to me that I couldn't be that. And when I graduated, barely graduated with a major in communications and a minor in film and video studies, and gallivanting around Europe for most of my junior year, studying, I use the term loosely, studying in Florence, Italy, and then traveling all over for the rest of the summer. Because remember, nobody was watching over me, telling me what to do. Bill just went home. In a way, out of sight, out of mind, go have fun. Like, you're one less person we have to deal with right now. When I got back to New York after graduation, did what any really good functional alcoholic would do. I got a job bartending and spent some time behind the bar at restaurants and a few different bars, and ended up knowing somebody that had worked at Miramax Films in New York and had worked on Harvey's brother Bob's desk and got me an interview, which led to a job that I didn't know anything about or how this even worked. What does it mean to get a job as an assistant even? And what do you do from there? But yeah, my first job in the entertainment industry right out of college, a few months after graduating, was going in for an interview and getting a job as Harvey Weinstein's assistant in New York by effectively making martinis for his other assistants during the interview process and ending up as assistant number 4 out of 4. And that was my start in that industry. And I spent almost 2 years as Harvey's assistant. This goes back 20 plus years prior to the Me Too era. So what I can say to that is I wasn't privy or didn't see any of the things that have subsequently come to light at that time. Not a great mentor, not a great guy at all, and ended up quitting that job around the 2-year mark and telling him to go fuck himself, and that my father would be rolling over in his grave if he knew I let somebody talk to me that way or treat me that way and I didn't do something about it. So it wasn't my place. So I left there to go on to produce my own films. And by the way, it never occurred to me either that leaving there, burning that bridge, would have any detrimental effect on my career whatsoever. So I guess sometimes ignorance is bliss in that regard.
And so you did a couple of films and then you pivoted into an entrepreneurial venture that everybody tried to talk you out of doing.
Yeah, I did. Again, I was fortunate to be able to raise some capital for a couple of film projects after leaving there, because independent film was hot at that time. And I knew people with money. And at this point, I didn't have any. All the guys I said I didn't want to be like, they all had the money. They graduated from business school or actually went to class, got jobs on Wall Street, went to work for the hedge funds, were working for .coms, that I also came to realize later, they didn't wear suits, not at all. They're sitting at trading desks in t-shirts and shorts, okay? Millions of dollars. I had this all backwards, man. I had this all wrong. Those guys put money into the film projects that I was trying to do. And that's how I got my first couple of film projects done. And big highlight of my life was a New York Film Festival, seeing a screening of my first film called Two Ninas, which had Amanda Peet in it, who went on to become famous, Ron Livingston, who's gone on to become a big deal, Wono, who's gone on to become a big deal. Fred Norris from the Howard Stern show that I would listen to every day made a cameo in it. Jill Hennessy from Law and Order made a cameo in it. We made this little movie written and directed by a guy named Neil Turitz, who is still a friend to this day, that I had the opportunity to dedicate to my dad. And to see that dedication on the screen at the New York Film Festival was pretty cool then. And to have a lot of people in the audience at that screening probably did not think I was going to do that or be able to do that, to see that. And I don't necessarily even really know how I did that in the manner in which I was living at the time either. So it's a little bit of be careful what you wish for. And what I started to realize was this is not a healthy place for me. This is not a healthy lifestyle either. That the entertainment industry, it may be too entertaining. So I started to think about some alternatives.
Where did the idea come from for Teen Baby Entertainment?
Yeah. So as I was working on transitioning out of kind of the film business, this world of independent production, I got to preface the Teen Baby story that I went out to California to do a screening of one of my films. Back then, you have to sell the foreign rights to these films by holding screenings so companies could come in, and if they liked the movie, they would make you an offer for Germany or Italy or wherever, out there, because there was no, again, Amazon, there was no Netflix, it was just a different time for the way content was distributed back then. It actually had to get into theaters or cable, country by country at the time. So I went out to California to work on selling the foreign rights to one of my teams, which was the way you claw back your money when you don't have a big breakout hit on your hand. You hope you can piece it back together and become right side up. And while I was at the Sky Bar of the Mondrian Hotel in Beverly Hills, California, you're nodding as if you've been there. The environments that I was putting myself in. And I had been out there for probably 28 days, living out of this hotel on some hedge fund guy's dime, basically. He was out there too with a suite and everything. And you're drinking and partying like a rock star and doing screenings of your movie every night. It was debauchery. It was a disaster. That's what it really was. But I stumbled on this woman one night at the bar, literally fell over her, super beautiful, and just stopped me right there. Even in my stupor and in my egotistical, I run this bar and here I am doing all this. And I just thought I met a hot blonde for the night or the weekend, maybe. But if somebody would have told me that I would be married with 2 teenage boys living in Houston, Texas, many years later, I would have said, bet the under. That shit's never going to happen. But yeah, I met Kate, who's now my wife, at the Sky Bar of the Mondrian Hotel by tripping over her, cigarette and drink in hand. Somehow she took pity on me. I have no idea how or why. And also kind of enjoyed messing with me for the entire night. And her friend tying my shoelaces together. So I tripped and fell down in front of them, making a spectacle of myself, but somehow ended up getting her to agree to have lunch with me the next day. And once I sobered up and we did have lunch the next day, we got along, we exchanged information. She lived in Houston, Texas, which was not on my radar, nowhere near my map, but made a plan to come and visit. Went down to Houston, Texas. We got along. We started dating long distance. I ended up moving to Miami for another production type job. She moved there. We ended up getting married. I'm giving you the short version of this, and decided when we were going to settle down and clean up that Houston was going to be home. So when we moved to Houston, that's where we settled. I had about 2 years worth of runway saved up. Didn't know a soul in Houston outside of her. And we got pregnant. We had our first child, and I'm sitting at home watching Baby Einstein in Sesame Street and Sports Center. And I'm thinking, I could put this shit together. I can do better than this. There's got to be other dads sitting at home. And back then, remember Picture in Picture? Yeah, like Baby Einstein playing on the big thing and Sports Center in the small little corner so I could watch my highlights and do everything. And I got the idea that I could put this together. Why can't I do the same thing that Baby Einstein is doing? The only difference is instead of classical music and colors and shapes and numbers and puppets and all this shit that I don't want to watch, basically, but that has my kid glued to the TV, I could just do it with sports. I can do it with mascots and team fight songs and uniforms. And a football field is the same shape as a rectangle. Baseball is a diamond. Right. Field there. And that's how Team Baby Entertainment was born. And I started making these little videos, rented a studio, bought all the toys, all the licensed toys, posted a flyer, and I sent an email around. Who has kids? I need your kids. Come down. They're going to be in this Team Baby video. And we started with the University of Texas Longhorns and Texas A&M. And we start local because we have crazy, rabid, fanatical fans down here, and cranked out the first couple of videos, which were god awful. Also, the logo was awful. The production value, it was terrible, man. It was awful. And they sold though. Like they sold out of the trunk of my car before football games and on campus. And they started selling college bookstores and everything else because people got the concept. Oh, it's Baby Einstein for my team. Great. Became a big gift item. And 2 titles went to 4, went to 5, went to 10 trade shows, learning how to do this business, what it meant to create a DVD and pick, pack, and ship and barcodes. I knew nothing, had no idea how to do this. And spent my last, probably $10,000 on PR. And the PR firm in New York, they took pity on me and took my $10,000, which was a fraction of their normal rate. I went to town, man, just placement after placement. And I'm getting written up in the Houston Chronicle and Austin Statesman, and then the Dallas Morning News, and then the Wall Street Journal did a little thing. And the New York, and as we're adding titles, we're hitting all these local newspapers. And then we made it to LA. And I think it was the LA Times that did something on like our USC DVD. And they talked about this company in Houston, Team Baby Entertainment. And the article made us appear much bigger than we really were. And even when I say we, there really wasn't a we. There was a me, there was a me in an office. The office was about the size of a shoebox, basically. It was a room that I had rented from a buddy of mine in an MRI facility. And every time they used the MRI machines, the power so the computers would go off and on. I had 2 computers. One of them was an editing station where the videos were made, and I had a guy come in and edit because I didn't know how to edit anything. And the other one was where we ran our website and our e-commerce and our sales. There was a conference table in the middle that was held up by a bunch of milk crates. And it was a slab of glass from like our last apartment. And we got rid of the glass tabletop because we figured it would kill our son if he ever bumped his head into it or shattered. So I ended up keeping it, putting it in the tiny little office. And that became the table in the middle of the room where all the magic of Team Baby was happening. And this article in the LA Times, I guess, landed on the desk of Michael Eisner, who was the former CEO of Disney. And apparently his non-compete was over and he was looking for things to invest in. He'd started a company. And I get this phone call one day. It says, come out to LA. We read about you. We want to meet you and talk about Team Baby Entertainment. Do you know I had bought Baby Einstein when I was at Disney, and it went from $28 million to this $1 billion thing. I'm like, I'm very fucking aware. I am very aware of who you are and what happened. And the irony is Disney used to own Miramax. So bringing this full circle, years down the road, I used to answer the phone when he would call for Harvey. And now he's calling me, or at least his assistant is calling me. So here's what ended up happening, which I think actually led to the actual bigger event. Can you come out to LA? Can you meet with us? Can you know I had to tell him no. I can't, because the time that you want me to meet, I have to be at a trade show that I've spent, again, now the last money I have. Remember, I was in a revolving door, money in, money out, man. There was nothing extra. Everything was done with intention of how we're going to move the needle to get to the next thing. So I had spent what little money I had left on a 10 by 10 trade show booth. And I had to go because I had DVDs to move. I was going to keep the lights on and get to the next DVD and see whether this thing was actually going to work. Remember, I hadn't drawn a dime on this thing yet either. So I had to tell them, no, I can't. And here's why I can't on it. So they stopped and paused, probably not getting used to being told no when they ask somebody out for a meeting there like that. And I asked them if they wanted to reschedule, and they said, I'll get back to you, which I thought meant I'll never get back to you. I'll never hear from you again. And a few days later, I got a call saying, hey, we're flying east. Would it be cool if we stopped in Houston and met with you on our way to New York? Yeah, okay, that sounds good. Okay. I'm convinced they're not coming still at this point. But I said yes. And then I started freaking out once this ended up on my calendar. They're going to come here. This is worse. I'm working in an MRI facility. I got a conference table that's being held up by milk crates right now. I don't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out. I am going to be completely exposed as a joke right now, if they even show up. So I go home to my wife and I'm like, Kate, what do I do? Should I rent like a conference room, or maybe like we get like a hotel suite or doing the, and kind of, I got to make this look like a company. I got to make it look like a business. I think, isn't that what you do when the former chairman of Disney is flying in on a private plane with his, I'm picturing entourage, like I'm like the whole thing. Isn't that what you do? And to her credit, my wife says, no, he says, that's not what you're going to do. It is what it is. You're just going to show them exactly who you are, exactly how you're doing it, how you're getting it done, and what the potential is for it to be. And I think that's what he's really going to want to see, because that's what's real. And don't sell yourself short because you've done a lot. And if he's coming in, something he saw was interesting to him. And she said, you don't have to have the money. You don't have to do anything. He has it. So she convinced me not to do anything different except to get a deli plate. She said, get a deli platter, okay? Because everybody likes sandwiches and likes deli. And you're a couple of nice Jewish boys, so you should sit down and you should have food there. So that was what I did. And on the day that we were supposed to meet, I'm there in the tiny little office with the deli platter in the center of the desk, the two tiny computers, the lights flickering, the folding chair, and the knock on the door happens. And in walks this tiny little kid, basically. Like I say, kid, like this 22-year-old, like tiny little kid in the gray suit with the red tie. Okay. And he's, hi, I'm Andy. I'm Michael's assistant. You're this Princeton business school graduate, you know, that these guys hire. I'm like, oh, hi, how you doing? So we're here for the meeting. Michael wanted me to just come in and check everything, make sure we're in the right place and do everything. Yeah, like you're in the right place. This is me. Nice to meet you. And he goes, okay, great. Hang on for a minute. I'll be back. Turns around, walks out, shuts the door behind him. I am again convinced not coming back. He's going to the car. He's like, Michael, this is right. Yeah, I don't know what the fuck's going on here, but it is the right place. It's an MRI facility. He's in a tiny little shoebox of a room. There's like sandwiches wrapped up on the table. Okay, I don't know what's going, but don't come in here. It was what I was convinced he was going to tell him. So I'm basically sitting back going, I got a lot of sandwiches to eat for the next couple of days, and a great story of how we just scared them all off. And he comes in, just comes in. A few minutes later, he doesn't knock, which is great. I love it. Just comes in, pushes the door open, great, and he's by himself, introduces himself, statuesque guy. Wow, holy shit. Okay, like I'm in the room where he's in the room. And he sits down and unwraps the sandwich. Thanks for the sandwich, the deli platter, unwraps it. Okay.
So you didn't even get a new table. You still had the crates and everything?
Yeah, the crates were holding up the glass tabletop. And the only reason, again, it was a glass tabletop is because my wife was like, you have to get this out of our place because our son is going to kill himself on this. Okay. I don't want a glass tabletop in here. It's right at his forehead height at this point in there. And he sits there and he starts asking me questions, question after question, but none of them about the business. Not a single question about DVDs, not a single question about Team Baby Entertainment. Where did you grow up? Tell me about your family. Oh, you have two brothers? Oh, I have three sons myself. We ended up talking about summer camp. Oh, really? Yeah, like I read your book, Camp. I thought it was really great. And we ended up talking about summer camp. I went to camp in New Hampshire. Oh, I went to camp in Pennsylvania. Yeah. We started talking about summer camp. We started talking about sports, and we started talking about activities, and we started talking about philosophies, and we started talking about every other than what are you doing? What are you doing in this office building? Like, what's this all about? What does that computer do? What does that computer do? There's nobody else that's involved in this? How do you learn how to make a DVD? Where are all these kids coming from? Where are you getting the footage? Like all of this, how many, they started to indirectly get into the business, but not really. Tell me about your wife. How long have you been married? How did you meet her? Oh, you had no idea about my background. No idea that I worked in film before. Like no idea, but he's asking all these questions and I'm not even sure what I should be sharing in return. But I thought the personal stuff was great. I'm an open book. Let's talk about family. Let's talk about kids. Let's talk about my dad a little bit. Let's talk about camp. And I think for maybe 2 minutes, maybe the last 2 minutes, it was a business question or two. Where do you want this to go? What do you think you're going to be able to do with this? Oh, I think we could have DVDs for every major sports team in the country. I think we could match all these DVDs with celebrities to their favorite teams and get these guys to narrate them. I think we're the baby Einstein of the sports world. And he basically said, maybe. It was kind of like, great. Well, we're going to go fly east now, okay, and take my other meetings. Great to meet you. Really enjoyed this. And we'll be in touch. Okay. And then turned and exited the same way he had entered. And that was that. And I'm sitting there and going, okay. No idea what just happened. Exactly. Complete awkward silence by myself. Wasn't even ready to call Kate back and explain to her what happened. Or a couple of my friends that I told this was happening. And I go home and I start telling her about the meeting that night. And I'm telling her, I think I'm still getting this part. Man, if I could tell you, it's probably like 4 hours later, like maybe 4 hours, whatever it takes really to get from Houston to New York and do whatever they had to do there. I got a call from Ant and he said, Michael loved you and loved the meeting. And we talked about it in the whole flight and he wants to invest. And we want to invest $2 million in the company and discuss with you what that kind of equates to and put you under a contract and make sure you can afford to pay your bills and all this other stuff. And let's see what we can really do here. And it was like Shark Tank moment before there was Shark Tank. Really? You're not one of my college buddies, just like pulling one? Like this is real. And they did everything they said they were going to do. They sent over a term sheet. I had to get an attorney. I'm freaking out. Going from broker than broke, basically, and having no idea what's going on, and so to, having a piece of paper after a meeting that one of the most powerful men in the history of the entertainment industry is offering to invest 7+ figures into this little tiny business that I started. It was life-changing. Yeah. And we ran it up for a few years and did some amazing stuff. World changed. DVD business kind of started to go away. Pediatricians started to say, don't put your kids in front of the TV for hours at a time. They got involved in some other bigger businesses. Remember, a lot of the people we used to do business with were starting to go out of business. KB Toys, Borders Books, even Toys R Us. Target stopped carrying DVDs the same way. And again, the landscape was changing. And as quickly as we went up in valuation, we got to a point where we were starting to come down just as quickly.
And what was it like getting mentored by Michael Eisner over those years? I'm assuming you guys were talking on a frequent basis and
great question.
Share wisdom.
We were talking very frequently for quite a while.
And did he ever say what he saw in you that made him want to invest in you?
Yeah, and that part was really cool to see and was really cool to hear. And there was press around kind of the investment in the acquisition that made it to the papers. And he was saying publicly that he's happy that I'm going to stay on as the CEO and has confidence in me to run the business. And he was an incredible mentor, incredibly wise individual. I wish I held up my end of the bargain, really. I wish I did better. I wish I listened more and talked less back then. I try not to look backwards now. I try not to have any regrets. So what is it? Either win or you learn, or you don't lose. But man, I felt like a winner for a while. And boy, did I feel like a fucking loser for an even longer while. There. Because my identity was so wrapped up in it. You're Michael Eisner's partner. You're running this baby video company. You're on the Big Idea on CNBC with Donnie Deutsch. You're on HSN, on July 4th weekend, hawking DVDs. You're in the paper, it was weird, man. Really weird. And I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't do a great job with it. I certainly didn't do a great job with it when it was on the way down. It's a lot easier to do a good job when it's on the way up. Mm, didn't really do a good job with it on the way down. And I didn't really know a lot about business again. And here's the other thing. I didn't have anybody else to call or ask. And I also didn't know that I should have been asking and listening to him and even his people more too, because I thought that was a sign of weakness. I'm supposed to know what I'm doing. You told me I'm still the CEO and you have confidence in me. I'm supposed to know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm winging it. So some days it goes all right, and other days it doesn't. And by the way, we're having our second child at this time. My expenses are going up. My stress level is going up. You stop doing a lot of the stuff that was fun for you. And now you have all these other things to deal with, vendor compliance and logistics. And now you're flying different places and meeting different people and wearing a lot of hats. I didn't have my dad to turn to and ask. Couldn't talk to my mom about any of this stuff. Didn't really have any friends, even in the Houston area that I felt close to talk to. I was in my own little vacuum and bubble. Had burned so many bridges with so many of my other friends earlier on that I didn't feel like there was a lot of places to turn or get advice. Never went to pee. That wasn't a thing for me either. Didn't address the mental health issues of anxiety and stress and imposter syndrome and depression. Yeah.
Where were your 6Fs at that time? Obviously, you hadn't developed this yet, but for you personally, you're now in your late 30s?
Yeah.
What was happening with your family, fitness, finance, et cetera?
Not good, man. Not good. I was over-indexing at work. I had fallen like head over heels into the over-indexing trap of trying to make this a success and dig myself out of whatever hole was there. And when you chase that shit, instead of letting it happen, it gets worse. So I wasn't coming home happy, wasn't coming home healthy. I was smoking and drinking, even though I was trying to exercise some. I was not in great shape. At one point I ballooned up to just about 200 pounds. For reference, I'm 175, right now. There was some muscle underneath all that flat, that I had put on. But I remember I was buying pants and I was like, holy shit, I'm like a 34 waist, there. For reference, I'm like a 32. I'm putting it was not good, man. It was not good. Trying to be the best dad I could be. But I cringe at some of those pictures. Way out of bounds. This was not life-changing financially for us either. It wasn't like the baby Einstein deal. It wasn't like somebody waltzed in and gave us, boom, you're acquired. We're Disney. We own it now. You walk away with a pot of gold in there. We're going to do this together. This was an investment. So yeah, I had a salary and I was able to cover things. This was on the come. Hey, what can we do with it to really make it happen? So no. Was my fitness great? No. Were my finances great? No. Was my food and nutrition great? No. And was my fashion and style great? No. I'm wearing like whatever college or pro gear shit they sent down to us to use in all the videos and everything else, And was I having much fun? Not anymore. From the outside looking in, again, people thought it was great, but people always thought it was great what I was doing from the outside looking in. I never thought it was that great. Looked pretty good. Looked great. The film production early on, what was happening with Team Baby Entertainment, what ended up happening after that. I think it's easy to make things look good. Really hard for them to actually be good. For you to authentically really feel like things are in a good place, to actually be able to put things in a good place. That's hard.
So you decided to pivot to insurance.
Yeah, talk about a 180. And when I say, when you say I decided to pivot, a lot of the decisions I made were not decisions I made. They were decisions that were made in a way for me. So the decision to exit Team Baby Entertainment was made for me. People bought the Topps baseball card company. There was an opportunity to merge it in with the Topps baseball card company. We were failing miserably at the time. I was failing miserably or had failed miserably. There was going to be no future investment to save or salvage this. So it was a pennies on the dollar. Thank you. Goodbye. God bless. And I'm back to, what do I do now? My identity's been tied up in this company. I still don't really know a whole lot of people in Houston because this is a whole another thing. Now I got 2 kids. Okay. I may have a shorter runway than when I even started this thing because I got a mortgage. I got a couple of cars now. I got, private school to pay for, things there. And I got this opportunity to join an insurance and risk management firm where I knew these guys. I knew the owners. And said, why don't you come over here? Be in this business. We're going to build and grow this agency. And residual income. You don't have to know anything about the business, but use your business contacts. You can, and your networking skills. You can go after anybody and anything that you want. You line them up and we can help teach you how to knock them down. And it sounded, on one hand, incredibly boring compared to everything I had done. And everything I said I was never going to do: put a suit on, go to an office, grind it out, build something kind of one brick at a time that everybody needs out there and has to be getting from somebody. There's a gazillion insurance agent. How do you differentiate? I'm just going to become one of those guys. I'm going to be my dad, maybe. Only actually, I don't really own this, which actually sounded like a good thing a little bit. I think it was a little burnt out on owning shit and doing a little burnt out on doing things that nobody actually needed. So some of it sounded interesting. Oh, residual income. That sounds responsible. Okay, building something or selling something that everybody actually needs. That sounds like it could be okay. Maybe being a disciplined and responsible provider for my family, as opposed to this risk-taking, run-and-gun, unstable entrepreneur guy. I did not have another $1 million idea either. So I said yes, but I said yes under one condition. I have to have an opportunity to buy in. I don't just want to be an employee. I don't just want to be a commission-based guy, a gun for hire. It's got to be a way for me to buy in. If I learned anything from the last experiences, you got to get some ownership. You got to have a seat at the table. You got to have something, in there. And I was able to secure that type of an arrangement. If you do this, Greg, we do this. If you build a book, hit these metrics, everything else, we'll open up the opportunity for you to buy into the business. And that's what happened. I went to work and started to build a book of business the only way I knew how, which was I knew how to make things. Didn't know how to sell insurance, didn't know anything about insurance, barely knew how to spell insurance. I knew how to buy insurance. That's what I've been doing for years. Knew that. Knew I had a reputation as a solid entrepreneur, as a risk taker. So I didn't have any experience or credibility as a risk manager, but I thought I could tell stories. Thought I could do this differently. So I created a television show interviewing entrepreneurs and risk takers. Risk Takers with Greg Scheinman, basically. And I invited the biggest and brightest and best risk takers in and around the Houston area on the show to come and talk to me. Mind you, I did not have a show at the time. So I said, I'm going to create the show and I'm going to go call all these people and I'm going to go tell them that I have a show, a TV show, a 30-minute talk show where I spend a day in the life with Houston's top entrepreneurs and risk takers. And I would love for you to join me. And that's what I did. Nobody bothered to ask when it was on or where it would be aired. They just said, when do you want to come? Because people I found, they like talking about themselves. Like I'm doing right now. This is why we're doing what we do now in a lot of ways. So I took this list of people that said yes to coming on the show. This high profile list of people that were coming on the show, turned it into a spreadsheet, put a little logo on the top, and everything else, went over to Houston PBS, the TV station here, and said, hey guys, I got a 30-minute talk show featuring the best and the brightest entrepreneurs and risk takers in Houston. And all I need from you is 30 minutes worth of airtime every week. You cool? And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, that's all I need. I need 30 minutes worth of airtime from you on Houston PBS every week, and I'll just deliver you the show.
You, of course, also said, look, I used to work with Harvey Weinstein and Michael Eisner's partner, and so I'm really
I didn't even get that far, really. I didn't even get that far. I wasn't even sure it mattered, okay, at that point. They're like, you have, I'm like, yeah, I'm covering all the production costs, okay? What I got when Team Baby went away was I inherited the editing equipment to the count, like I had everything. And I had a guy who knew how to do this that I wanted to keep employed. So they're like, okay, like, how does Thursday at like 8:00 sound? They're like, we'll give you 13 weeks. Like you deliver the first 13 episodes. We'll see how it goes. And then they said, by the way, no advertising on PBS. You can't sell advertising. You can't do. They gave me the rules about PBS. I said, great. I said, but can I brand it? I said, can it be presented by? I said, I've watched some PBS shows. They're all presented by somebody. I said, can it be presented by somebody? And they're like, yeah, absolutely. Great. Now it's presented by me, okay, and my insurance company.
Nice.
So here it is, Risk Takers, every Thursday, whatever, on PBS television, hosted by Greg Scheinman, presented by insurance and risk management. And that's how I started building my book of business, putting this television show out there week after week. It ended up getting syndicated in a print. The interviews ended up in a print version. in Houston newspapers and magazines and everything else. And my name was everywhere all over this. And these people that came on and I got to spend the day with, I developed some pretty good relationships with, pretty good rapport. What do you do, Greg? And then what do you do, Greg? Oh, yeah, well, I had this film career and then I sold this company to Michael Eisner. Oh, you did what? Like, yeah. And after I sold this company to Michael Eisner, it merged in with Topps. And now I joined this insurance agency and I'm investing in this insurance agency. And I run risk management for kind of entrepreneurs, risk takers, and people like us. And we're going to grow and scale this business. So if you can eat it, drink it, work out with it, those are the things I'm into. Those are the types of guests I have, entertainment, hospitality. I can tell you like 70% of the people that came on the show, we ended up doing 28 episodes. 70% of the people that came on the show ended up either becoming clients of mine in the firm or referred me to individuals and companies that became clients of mine in the firm. And over the course of a couple of years, built a multi-million-dollar book of business, which was throwing off hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in residual income. I got my equity in the firm and we sold the firm at the end of 2020. And I ended up leaving in August. Should have left back in December, but ended up staying, had to sign for a year, didn't make it a full year. It was part of the transaction. It was time for me to go and move on to the next thing.
What's interesting too is that year was the year that you started living in your bonus time. So talk a little bit about that and what that means for you.
Yeah. Look, it was a hard 12, 13, 14 years. And I moved through the story quickly, but I was there for I think it was like 13 years, 14 years. And again, if anybody would have told you, I would have lasted in the insurance industry for that amount of time after doing what I had done and knowing who I am. Again, I would have said, bet the under, ain't going to happen. But here's the thing. And for guys out there too, we got families, we got wives, we got kids, we got responsibilities, we got overhead, we got shit we got to handle. So quitting my job then to just go follow my passion was not an option at the time. Putting money in the bank was what needed to happen. Getting up, getting dressed, going and doing my job was what was important, was what needed to get done. And while this didn't feel like me, while it wasn't exactly what I wanted to do, whereas I wasn't fully bought in and feeling like my biggest, brightest, most authentic self that everybody talks about, I had to just show up and do my fucking job because I was making a lot of money. And now I also had hitched my wagon to this horse that was growing and taking off. And my partners in this firm are machines. And I say that in a positive way. Ultra committed, mega producers. We went from 45 people to 200 people at the time that the firm was acquired. So I'm incredibly grateful and fortunate to have even gotten the opportunity that I got at the time that I got it and to have had even the smallest seat at the table. They knew also halfway in that I wasn't all the way in. You can't hide that shit. But to answer your question, when I hit 47, my father passed away at 47. So at 47, I call it 47, my father's life ended. At 47, that's when mine began. That's when I got to start doing what I really enjoy doing. When COVID happened, and I would not wish a global pandemic on anybody, I'm built for that. What I learned is I'm built for it. All the battles I was fighting, all the things I was wrestling with and struggling with, they all went away. I didn't have to put the suit on, light, and go to the office. I didn't have to pretend to be something I was not anymore. I didn't have to fight and lobby for a corporate wellness program or time to exercise and work out. Nobody could go to the office. I could just do what I wanted. All of a sudden I could dress the way I wanted to dress, not shave, exercise every day. I could write, I could speak. I didn't have to walk around the office worrying about whether anybody saw me there or being there or not being there, or door open or door closed, or, gossip and politics and production and everything else. All of it was gone. And when you strip everything away, you get the opportunity to choose what it is you bring back and what's really important to you. So yeah, I started taking care of my clients, but differently, because we all had to do it differently. And then I started the blog, which became the newsletter, and the podcast, rebranded, which became 200 episodes later. And the newsletter and the stories from the podcast became the book, which will be out this year. And I developed my 6 F's of family and fitness and finance and food and fashion and fun, and started to live authentically through all of them, and started seeing that as the metric and measurement of success versus salary and title. And can I start turning those F's into A's and start working on each one of those areas each and every day? and prioritizing the things that are important, because we don't get a second shot at this. And 47 was the wake-up call my father never woke up from. I'm going to do more. I'm going to do more in this next phase of my life than I did in the first phase. No doubt, absolutely 100% certain that this next phase of my life will be the best phase of my life. And that's not to say that I didn't have some great shit going on at various times, but I am taking all of the experience that I have had and everything that I have learned along the way and applying it to maximizing the next phase of my life. And that's become transformative. And what's happened there has become enlightening, and it's enabled me to live my message now and to help coach other men and to get on bigger stages and show people that it's not only possible, but highly probable to change your life if you're willing to put in the work. Once you figure out what's important, I say knowing what's important is what's most important. When you figure that out and you get that down and you can put it on paper and you can write out your own map, what I'm calling out like my maximized action plan, what does my life look like 3 years down the road, 5 years down the road? And you start reverse engineering back into the steps you need to take to make it happen, man, that's magical. In there. When you get to aggregate and curate and eliminate, take the best, aggregate it in from men like yourself and the other 200 guys that have come on the podcast, curate it down to the really most amazing, impactful, best stuff that works for you and eliminate all the other shit that doesn't, like now you're on to something.
So thinking back to the early days, little Greg, did you have a favorite toy or activity back then growing up that you remember? And you and I basically are the same age, so we probably have a lot of point of references that we share.
So yeah, so if we're pushing 50 right now, so we got to rewind a little bit back into childhood to those early days. I mean, man, as a young boy, as a little boy, like I loved the firehouse. That was the thing. I loved visiting firehouses. So I loved any kind of fire truck, ambulance, any of those types of toys. And I just remember with my father and grandfather always visiting firehouses. Like that was our stuff to do.
What did that evoke for you as a kid? Do you remember the firehouse? Was it about putting out fires? Was it about just the organization of it all?
I think first and foremost, I just enjoyed spending time with my dad and with my grandfathers. And I was the first grandchild. I'm one of 3 boys. I'm the oldest of 3 boys. So I was the first, there. So I think because of that, they were excited to maybe do things with this new young toy that they had, this young boy that they had. So it became tradition. As far as putting out fires, I don't think I saw it that way at the time. What I saw it as these big, shiny red objects, these heroic type of guys that did this job, all the different moving pieces and the parts and everything. It was also all about just doing good, if that makes sense. Like they came when people called. Like in our town also, there was a siren that would go off. So because it was volunteer fire department. So when they needed firemen, there was a big siren, almost like a hurricane or a tornado type siren that would go off. And that would signal, I came to learn later, that would signal the firefighters to go to the firehouse, get on the truck and go out to fight the fires. And I just thought that was a super, super cool thing that when people needed help, a fire broke out anytime, 24/7. These guys got to the firehouse, they got on the trucks that I got to see and climb on and go put it out. That's what they did.
So you mentioned your father and your grandfather were around as you were growing up. Do you remember any philosophies or ideologies that they would echo to you and maybe you and your brothers in the house? Things like you got to work hard to be successful, anything like that?
My father was a self-made man. My mother's father, my Papa Artie, we called him, was the hardworking, more blue collar guy. He was just grinding it out, and he was living in Forest Hills, Queens, New York, in an apartment building with my grandmother, just kind of a grinder. I thought of him as a grinder in the garment industry. And that guy in New York that just got up, went to work, grinded it out, and they did fine. No doubt about it in there. My father's father was a much more statuesque type gentleman. He had more of that Mad Men type vibe in there, dressed that way, had that kind of look, that demeanor, more serious. is what I remember. And both of these individuals, both of my grandfathers, unfortunately passed away when I was very young. So these are very early childhood memories, 5, 6, 7. I don't totally even recall. I don't think I got past 10 with them both being alive. And my father was also a self-made man. He was an entrepreneur his entire life. And I didn't even know really what that meant for a very long time. I just knew that my father had his own business, that he was the boss. And when I would visit him at his business, he had the big office and it had a fish tank, in it and a big giant desk. And he wore a suit every day. And then there were all these other people there that worked for him or with him. And they were out in the open and walking and milling about. And there was a big warehouse and it had forklifts in it and all this stuff. So I did sense the operational aspect or the differences of what I perceived to be in charge. I guess he was the guy that created a business or took an idea to execution. And all of these other people who were always very nice to me as Alan's son, who would come to work and want to use the copy machine or sit in his office or go in the warehouse and take inventory or drive the forklift, which was always a cool thing that I could sit on my dad's lap and drive the forklift. So I did have an understanding or an appreciation that I guess his position was a little different in the organization.
Did he say anything to you and your brothers though about, hey, you should own your own business or anything like that? Like what was the familial idea of success? I guess I'm asking, what were your parents impressed with and other people that they maybe expressed?
It's such a great question. I do refer back to my childhood and our upbringing as feeling like we had nowhere to go but down. That we lived a life of prosperity and a life of privilege before that may have even been a common term there. We lived in this community where we didn't want for anything. It was my mother, my father, my 2 brothers, and we lived in a nice house and dad had a company and we had nice cars and we got to do what we wanted to do for there. As far as an appreciation for work ethic, as far as kind of mentorship in that regard, I don't really recall getting a whole lot of that. I recall seeing him always working, seeing him get up and get dressed every day with the suit and the tie and going to work day after day. I have memories of him sitting at the dining room table, opening up the checkbook and sitting there and paying the bills and asking questions about that and seeing my name at the top of the checks because he named his holding company Greg Evan Associates after me. And I came to realize later that there were, in fact, no associates. It was just like, I didn't know what that meant overall. But seeing the lifestyle from the ground up as he's the big dad and he's the father figure, is the father. And I'm keep looking and observing. What I did know and came to realize later is that he didn't graduate from college, wasn't a particularly great student, was always a good athlete, and he smoked way too much. If you picture the tan, handsome smoker, again, madman-esque, almost like his father too, that he was this kind of larger than life person in character, always incredibly sweet, always incredibly attentive, incredible father, provider, but there wasn't a lot of the let me sit you down and tell me how it is, or tell you how it is, or how it's going to be. There was this feeling and belief that was prevalent around him, or that the aura that he put off and that I interpreted as was that anything and everything was possible and that you could do anything that you wanted to do if you went out there and did it and executed on it. And he was living proof of that. But the measure of success very much seemed to be salary and title, particularly as a man. We were keeping score. We lived in a town that kind of kept score. The car that you drove, the house that you lived in, the money that you had. So I think the measure of the man back then, or the metric of success, was very much salary and title and where you stood within this town, which was also a very insulated bubble. It was very far from reality in the rest of the country, or even New York City, or the rest of the world, which I came to learn more about later.
I remember my dad, he would come home. He was an entrepreneur as well. He would come home from work. He would plop down in front of the couch. He would ask one of us to get him a Heineken, and he would ask me to go make him a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And he would just tune out in front of the television. My mom would be upstairs doing something, right? I never saw him do any sort of physical activity. And this is not a judgment. It's just observation. So for me, I would never characterize my dad as a healthy person when I was young. And I'm curious what your experience was with your father. Would you characterize him as a healthy person? And if so, why? If not, why not?
It's a great question. And there's a little dichotomy to this for me in that he was a very good athlete growing up. There were all kinds of clippings that I read and trophies that my grandmother would show me that he was a tremendous baseball player and basketball. He was a true student athlete all the way through high school and did have an opportunity to play some basketball in college, but he never went and never pursued that. And even was apparently a tremendous bowler and almost went pro as a bowler, which was a memory that I had of him. As an adult, as a father, I would not describe him as particularly healthy. He was the midlife male that I talk about right now that focused on career, again, salary and title. And with that regard, kind of let himself go. So he did become overweight, not obese, but softer, as in health and wellness and exercise was not a priority. The sports or the activity that became part of his life were the country club sports, golf and tennis. And I recall many times seeing him get off the tennis court and immediately sit down and light a cigarette, get off the golf course, not even off the golf course, smoking the entire time, sitting down to pay the bills, solid gold Dunhill lighter, big ashtray, pack of Lucky Strikes on the table, drink on the table, checkbook open, top button of the shirt open, tie relaxed a little bit. Here comes the food. No real attention necessarily being paid to the healthiness of the meals. We didn't grow up eating particularly healthy meals even. I remember for years of my life thinking that all vegetables came out of this Jolly Green Giant kind of pack with this almost fluorescent yellow butter sauce on it. And they all got steamed in a microwave or something like that. And even if they were good for you to begin with, okay, they weren't when this process was done. And then the fried onion rings were drizzled on top. It was this makeshift kind of situation that was there. So to answer your question, no, I don't recall him living a particularly healthy life. And we'll get into him passing away young and the reasons for that. And again, from the maybe kind of lifestyle, I would join him for breakfast certain mornings. He would meet other business associates and friends at a diner in the morning. And I would go before school to join him and then get dropped off at school after. And it's again, 4 or 5 men, suits, all little paunchy, in their 30s, smoking at the table, eating bacon and eggs, getting ready to go to their office for however many hours in the day it is, and come back home and do it all over again the next day. The tennis and the golf were on the weekends. It didn't change the smoking or the drinking per se. And then there were dinners Friday and Saturday night with other couples or things that were grandiose. If I was looking back on them now, I was going to say not particularly healthy when you, in retrospect, going back and looking at it that way. But from the outside looking in, doing everything that everybody else was doing around our area and successful by all other metrics of being a husband, being a father, being a provider, living a life of, again, prosperity and luxury there, maybe overindulgence in all of these areas, and not particularly paying attention about maybe the next phase of your life or your health and your future. I don't think we were doing a lot of talking about longevity back then. Only talking, I don't think it was really a prevalent conversation around mental health, even health and wellness, what success really means, different measurements of it back then.
So you all also shared a couple past times. You would drive around in this convertible and listen to music. He would take you to hockey games. Did he talk to you at all about manhood and what it means to be a man as you guys were spending this quality time together?
Man, I wish I had more time and more of those conversations. My father passed away when he was 47. So I was 17, graduating high school and heading off to college. In context, I had another brother who was 14 and another brother who was 8. So I was the oldest of the 3. And for the last few years of his life, he was pretty sick. So the conversations were tough to have based on his condition. From raising a young man into a man type conversations that I do recall having and that we did have and that were impactful and meaningful, I was bullied for years, for several, particularly in my middle school years, around 13 started when I entered 6th grade. And since I was decent looking kid, big ego, thinking his shit didn't stink in any way, shape or form, I was into girls early, particularly older girls early. And because of that, a lot of the other guys didn't really care for me too much. And they took to bullying me and pushing me around, the older guys, because it was an interesting kind of bullying situation that I was popular in my own grade, at my own age and stage, and maybe advanced in certain areas, or at least had desires to act like I was advanced or wanting to advance faster. And some of the older guys didn't care for that very much. Socializing with the girls in their grade, thinking I was a little too cool for school. I need to get checked a little bit. So I was getting the shit kicked out of me pretty regularly for a couple of years. 6th grade, 7th grade, even when I got to 8th grade, there were some kids that would come down from the high school just to make sure that I knew my place there. And from the conversation aspect with my father, he taught me how to defend myself. He taught me a great appreciation for not giving in to the bully, to punching the bully in the nose.
Do you remember any specific advice that he said about that?
Yeah, you may hit him first. Don't give him a chance to hit you first. If it's going down, you better make sure that you hit them first, okay? Especially if you don't think you're going to win this one. Most of those fights don't tend to last very long, so make sure you get in or you hit first and you get it in and get it over with early. That might stop this situation in there. That was one piece of advice. Keep your left hand up. It was another good one in there. But I do remember, again, his advice being to not run from the problem, to not run from the confrontation. And also that I'm not going to protect you from this. And I'm not going to go into the school and tell them what they need to do. And we're going to figure out what it is that you need to do. Teach you how you're going to handle this situation overall and how you can gain more even from losing than particularly winning. And that the perception of what that would illustrate, if you are willing, quite frankly, to get your ass kicked every day, but stay in the fight, that in its own right might wear the other guys down. They may go look for another easier, better target. Or you may earn some respect, which ultimately ended up happening in a few cases. Hey, this may not be the toughest kid around, but we're not going to really bother him because he comes back, and I got a little respect for that.
Did you employ the hit first tactic and a few times and see how
every opportunity I had, man, every opportunity and it was the scariest thing I had to do anytime I did it. When it was like 3:00, we're going to the parking lot, or we're walking outside and we're going to that spot, that designated fight spot. As we're walking and the guy I'm fighting is in front of me 3 feet, I remember I'm not waiting until we get to the spot and turns around. I'm tapping him on the shoulder. He turns around. I'm hitting him right then and there, halfway to the spot. I'm going to get a jump on this thing, overall in there. So every opportunity I had to try to dictate or control the outcome, or sway the inevitable from me ending up on the ground, getting my ass kicked, to maybe getting in a few, I took that opportunity every time I had.
And at the same time, your dad encouraged you to start lifting.
Absolutely. Around that time, look, I was 13. I was scrawny as can be, skinny, like you could literally count every rib. And it wasn't what we did. I was athletic. We played sports. We didn't lift. We didn't go into gyms or lift weights I didn't know shit about that. And again, I also didn't see it at home. It wasn't like my dad was doing it. Didn't have any older brothers to look at and say that they were doing it either. But this was a double-edged sword. Like, the reason for this was twofold. One, no, I didn't want to continue to get bullied and lose. So not being as skinny as a rail might actually serve as a deterrent in there. And the second was I actually ripped my knee apart at 13. In a pickup basketball game. So I had my first knee surgery around the age of 13. And when I was immobilized, back then, the surgeries we didn't have the technology that we have now. So they would cast you up or put you in these large immobilizers. Even the rehabilitation process was much different. They didn't even encourage movement at the time. So all I could do was use my upper body because my lower body was immobilized. And I just basically cast from my hip to my foot, after my first surgery. And I was in this for like 8 weeks, and then it went to a softer immobilizer. But the process was months and months to regain movement of my knee and start working back through rehab to the point where you could walk and pedal a bicycle and do all these things. So that's when I started lifting weight. I'm like, I could curl, I could press, I could push, I could do these things while I couldn't do anything with my legs because of what I was dealing with my knee. So it was twofold, my reasonings for starting to pick up a weight. And I think obviously it made a huge impact in my life to have something to do in there, to be able to get out aggression, to be able to see physical change and transformation, to be able to be positive or find some positivity during a time where you can just otherwise be laid up and sitting around and doing nothing.
When your dad first got diagnosed with cancer, you mentioned that he was sick for a few years. Did you think he was going to beat it in the back of your mind? Were you thinking this is a death sentence for him? And at the same time, what were your aspirations for yourself going forward? You were about to go to college. What did you see yourself becoming? Because looking at potential death in the face may make you think about those kinds of things a little bit more.
Absolutely. At first, I don't think I looked it in the face at all. At first, I mean, I was completely in denial. It was just another diagnosis, another word.
Was he stoic when he got that diagnosis?
He was. And I remember also that he was misdiagnosed early on also by a doctor who was a family friend who was convinced that it was pneumonia and not cancer.
Wow. Okay.
And that when the actual diagnosis, the correct diagnosis actually came in, even months later afterwards, there was an element of stoicism, to it. Mm-hmm. Kind of like this weird, awkward silence that there is almost in a way like right now, if we sit and lean into it. Like okay, like you get better from pneumonia, ideally, but do you get better from cancer? Like, okay, this is different. I can rationalize and justify pneumonia, put down the cigarettes, maybe heal up, you get better from pneumonia. Okay, but cancer, is this the wake-up call that you do not wake up from? And it immediately changed, I think, the family dynamic. It immediately changed the vibe in the house. That much I remember. The way my mother behaved and acted and coped with things or didn't cope with things. The degree and level of attention that was paid to my brothers and I changed significantly because there was a bigger priority, and in a way justifiably so, which was, are you going to live or are you going to die? What happens? What needs to get done? And on top of that, what happens with the business? My mother was a stay-at-home mom. Father was the entrepreneur. What happens with the business? How long are you going to be able to work and provide? Do people want to do business with somebody that they now know has cancer and may not be here or able to service the business? All these questions that were way beyond my mindset, my thought process at the time. Also, things that have come back or things that I've thought about more and looked back on and reflected this way much later in life. But there was a real fear. There was absolutely fear that permeated, I think, throughout our house, throughout our family. There was a sense of, I think, denial. There was a sense of, I don't think embarrassment is the right word in there, but more of, again, we were in this environment where, quite frankly, people were not experiencing hardship. So I know that there were a number of friends of my father's and friends of my mother's that did get sick and did get cancer. But to the best of my, we were the first family that was they got hit with something that I knew of this hard.
Mm-hmm. I feel like when things like that happen, when tragedy strikes, you really get to see what kind of family you're in. Are you the kind of family that's going to hide everything because you're embarrassed? Are you the kind of family that's going to talk openly about just the nitty gritty of these kinds of things? Are you the type of family that's going to have the elephant in the room and just avoid it and just not talk about it at all? What kind of family did you discover that you were in? You
were probably closest to the latter that you described, the elephants in the room, and we're not great at talking about it.
Which is the most stressful out of all those options, probably.
Listen, absolutely. And look, I love my family very much, love my father very much, my idol in every way imaginable, even as I described to you his pattern and his behavior and the manner in which he lived in there. Didn't take away from the fact that he was always incredibly loving, incredibly supportive, incredibly positive, and had nothing but tremendous attributes, and everybody loved him, life of the party, stylish guy. But he was also, again, the out there, as we described, the lifestyle guy doing some things that weren't particularly healthy either. That being said, also as it pertains to the family, as much as I love my family, we didn't really talk about things. We didn't really get help for anything. As my father got sicker, things became harder for my mother. She has her own issues that she's still working on. We're still working on them. My brothers have their own issues. I had my own issues. We very much all kind of, I think, internalized, and we're just left in a way to deal with our lives however we decided to deal with them.
But you were the oldest Scheinman boy, right? So you must have felt like you were thrust into this sort of leadership position after your dad passed away. and your other brothers and perhaps even your mother was looking at you to take a cue of how to deal with this situation. So talk about what you felt after the fact in that position of leadership.
I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to be a leader. I wasn't ready to lead a family. I don't think I was ready to even be a mentor to my younger brothers. I was angry also. I was bitter and I was angry and I had my own ego and narcissism, and I was wanting to go off to college and have the time of my life. And I was not in a mindset or place to really go off to college and have the time of my life then. And I was in denial. I wasn't dealing with my anger, my depression, my loss in a healthy way at all. And I also did not feel like I had anybody to talk to. I didn't feel like burdening or talking to my mother. I didn't feel like she was capable of handling what I needed or giving me what I needed. Didn't feel like dealing with my brothers either, as they were younger. And at the same time, I didn't feel like dumping on them. I also don't think I put myself in a place where they felt comfortable coming to me either. I left. Is what I did. Got up and I left, and I went to Michigan to go to school, where I did whatever I wanted because nobody was watching over me. And I went to school without having any real responsibility to pay for it or work for it and do anything to maintain it. It was just there. So, you're 17, 18, you've lost the father figure, the guidance, the mentor, the resource, and you're on your own and you got money. You can do whatever you want. Nobody's checking up on you. So I did the very bare minimum in school to make sure I didn't get kicked out. And I partied because that took away as much of the pain as possible. I could go out. Every night was a Saturday when you're in college, if you wanted it to be. So every night was a Saturday for me. And it was drunken evenings, and it was girls, and it was bar fights every once in a while. And it was some great times and some really bad times. Retrospect, not a lot of behavior I'm particularly proud of.
How are you defining success these days, Greg? This will be our last question.
Chasing total life wellness is what I'm doing. For me, that's success. Do I have my priorities in what I consider the right order? And again, everybody's priorities are different. And what I mean by this is set your own intention and set your own priorities. And this is what I work with a lot of men on right now. Again, knowing what's important is most important. For me, family, fitness, finance, food, fashion, fun, in that order, because family always comes first for me. Fitness, which is really health. If I don't have my health or I'm not fit, I can't do the things I want to do with the people I want to do them with. Same with finance. I don't need to conquer the world and become a billionaire, but it's very important. I want to have enough to do the things I want to do with the people I want to do them with for as long as I want to be able to do them. Food is really nutrition. What I put in my body matters to me because that helps me stick around longer and feel good and have the energy in my 50s and beyond. When I talk about fashion, what I really mean is style, confidence, just a way and a look that makes you feel good and authentic. And then fun, which a lot of guys are not having enough of. For me, if it's not fun, then I'm done. I want to be having fun now. And that doesn't mean that I do not work hard. Doesn't mean that you shouldn't work hard. Doesn't mean that every day is rainbows and unicorns. But it means that I am enjoying what I'm doing. I'm enjoying who I'm doing it with. I'm enjoying who I'm doing it for. And it matters and it means something to me. And yeah, there are activities and events and experiences that are specifically built in for the sole purpose of those are just fun. And we need to schedule that the same way we schedule the dentist appointment, the same way we pay our taxes. It's that important. So to me, that's what makes up success. How does that portfolio look? What does that pie chart look like in there? And if I'm over-indexing in any one area then we just reallocate. We reshift a little bit. But those are, for me, that's the compass. I look at those things and I ask myself the question, how am I doing in those areas? The F's into A's. Now, you don't have to be a straight A student, but am I operating in a manner that makes me happy and that I feel successful?
I love it. Thank you so much, man, for sharing so vulnerably and transparently. I like to end the conversation just looping back around to childhood and going back to your fascination with fire, the firehouse or the fire station and the fire trucks. And after hearing your whole story and connecting the dots, you're now very much a fireman, helping to extinguish this idea of the crisis of the midlife and helping people to understand this is actually when it's going to get really good, because you have the value and benefit of all this life experience. And you have the wisdom to know that every day really is a blessing, and your health really that's your biggest wealth. And this portfolio you're talking about of the 6 F's is what you want to put your focus on to be able to gauge what your true level of success is. So I just want to acknowledge you, man, for using all of your lessons and takeaways from the ups and from the downs and for being a positive image of what a man who is in his late 40s looks like and could look like, and for posting so generously on your social media feed, and for creating this platform, midlifemale.com, and the blog and the podcast, and just all the things you're doing to make the world a better place and putting service right out there in the forefront of your day-to-day. Thanks again, man. Thanks for all you do. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing your story.
If you like that video, you're going to love the next one. Click this thumbnail right here, and I'll see you over there.